everyone, welcome to my video on how the Cancer Genome Project is opening doors for curing cancer. But that might have sounded really confusing. So before I start, I will give you a brief summary on the main aspect of this project. So let's talk about the basics. What exactly is cancer? Here is what some students think about questions related to cancer. Looking at the survey results, we can see that 96% of the control group knew about cancer. However, when they were asked to describe what cancer was, they didn't quite know what words to associate it with. Moreover, when asked about the Human Genome Project, only around 50% of the people in the control group knew about it, and the rest would like to know more about it. Moreover, when asked whether genes could cause cancer, 87% replied yes, 7% replied no, and 7% replied maybe. And lastly, when asked about what percent cancer would increase by 2030, the majority of them believe that it will either increase by 5%, 20%, or 50%. However, when looking at the actual results, it is set to increase by 75%. Cancer is a disease that is caused when cells uncontrollably divide in a part of the body. This leads to growth in the abnormal cells in the body, which may form a mass of tissue called a tumor. However, not all cancers come from tumors, and such an example is that of leukemia. Since cancer is such a rapidly growing disease, apart from chemotherapy, there has been an introduction of a cure for cancer through gene sequencing, which was completed through the Human Genome Project. But what is the Human Genome Project? The Human Genome Project was a research effort that was taken up in 1988 to determine the sequence of the entire genome. It was successfully completed in 2001. The Cancer Genome Project started after the Human Genome Project, using it as a basis. It is an initiative undertaken to enhance our understanding of the molecular basis of cancer and how it can be cured through the application of gene sequencing. Genes are a set of instructions that determine what the organism is like, its appearance, how it survives, and its behavior in response to the environment. It is also the molecular unit of heredity in a living organism. A gene consists of a long combination of 4 different nucleotide bases. These nucleotide bases are adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. Gene sequencing is figuring out the order of the DNA nucleotides in a genome, the order of adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine that make up an organism's DNA. In addition to this, a genome is a complete set of genes or genetic material present in a cell or organism. But why am I talking about genes and gene sequencing? It is because it leads to genomics, which is the study of genomes in organisms, and forms the basis of the Cancer Genome Project. So, the Cancer Genome Project is looking at cancers with the following criteria: the impact of the cancer on the overall health of the public, the availability of human tumor and matched normal tissue samples that meet the TCGA standards for patient consent, quality, and quantity. So today I'm going to look at one cancer in detail, and that is lung cancer. So, what is lung cancer? Uncontrolled growth of the abnormal cells that start off in the lungs is known as lung cancer. It usually starts in the cells that line in the air passages. The abnormal cells do not develop into healthy lung tissue. They divide rapidly and form tumors. As tumors become larger and more numerous, they determine the lung's ability to provide the bloodstream with oxygen. Tumors that remain in place and do not appear to spread are known as benign. So that was what lung cancer was. But how exactly is it caused? Lung cancer occurs when a lung cell's gene mutation makes the cell unable to correct DNA damage and unable to commit suicide. Mutations can occur for a variety of reasons. Most lung cancers are the result of inhaling carcinogenic substances. So what are the cures for lung cancer recently? So what are the cures for lung cancer currently? Lung cancer can be treated in a few ways depending on factors such as the area in which the cancer is present, the type of lung cancer, the stage and severity of the cancer, and the general health of the patient. However, some of the most common treatment options include surgery for the removal of the tumor, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. So, the Cancer Genome Atlas Project hopes to do the following: to pinpoint gene changes that divide squamous and adenocarcinoma tumors into molecular subgroups, to distinguish patterns of gene changes between adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma, and to distinguish genomic changes between the smokers and the non-smokers. Recently, researchers from the Cancer Genome Atlas Research Network have identified novel mutations in a well-known cancer-causing pathway in lung adenocarcinoma. Knowledge of these genomic changes may expand the number of possible therapeutic targets for this disease and potentially identify a greater number of patients with treatable mutations, as many potent cancer drugs that target these mutations already exist. Moreover, additional analysis identified other genes that may play an important role in lung cancer development. Mutations in one of these genes, NF1, had previously been reported in lung cancer. NF1 is also known as a tumor suppressor gene that regulates the RTK/RAS/RAF pathway. Well, that was confusing. But the RTK/RAS/RAF pathway is a chain of proteins in a cell that communicates the signal from a receptor on the surface of the cell to the DNA in the nucleus of the cell. Another mutated gene, RIT1, is also a part of the RTK/RAS/RAF pathway, and this is the first study to associate mutation of this gene with lung cancer. So now we know that research being conducted by the Cancer Genome Atlas Project is mainly to pinpoint the exact cancer genes for treatment, like gene therapy, which uses our genes to prevent a disease like cancer in which genes are injected into our body as an alternative for drugs and medication. This is the reason I interviewed my biology teacher, who has a master's degree in biomedicine, by asking him if he believed that the Cancer Genome Atlas Project would form a research network that will help treatments like gene therapy to replace chemotherapy with less side effects in the future.
I don't think there's a single answer to this question, as finding the mutated genes in cancer is very difficult. I think it will take a long time. However, the main disadvantage of chemotherapy is that it is affecting the normal cells that surround your rapidly dividing tumor cells. Therefore, if you were to be able to target the genes that's responsible for cancer, then surely it will be more effective. But the big question then is how to target those genes, as they are difficult to target with the current technologies.
So finally, we have come to an end in learning on how the Cancer Genome Atlas Project is opening doors for curing cancer. In my opinion, I believe that the Cancer Genome Atlas Project is a long project and it may take a while before it ends. But nonetheless, the research network being created to pinpoint the exact cancer genes seems like an achievable goal. It is still inconclusive, but when it does get over in the future, chances are that treatments such as gene therapy will take over chemotherapy and have better survival rates for their patients. However, the only downside to this aim of the Cancer Genome Atlas Project is that the technology to pinpoint the exact gene which is inside the cell may be hard to find and may not be available for several of years, which means that the research cannot be used to find an alternative cure for cancer. But this is only my opinion. You guys can have your opinion, and maybe this will inspire you to research about it more. Thanks for watching my video.